So by now you're already aware of this new CT scanning technology which allows people to look inside your packs and boxes, but has anyone really thought deeply about how this might impact your Pokemon collection and investments? Well, in today's video, I'll be giving you my hours of thinking around this in less than 15 minutes. Let's get straight into it. Hey guys, it's Pokemonster here, back with another video. Today I really wanted to discuss my thinking around this CT scanning technology and how it might affect your collection and investments. Now, I've seen a lot of takes on YouTube, some ranging from the fact that it won't impact collecting at all, and some thinking that it's the end of investing. I land somewhere in between there. So the way this video is going to be structured, firstly, I'm going to very briefly run through what the actual technology is and what's happened in the past few weeks, and then I'm going to address some key questions, and make sure you watch till the end because a lot of these have a lot of useful points, hopefully food for thought. So I'm going to structure this video with the following questions. The first thing is I'm going to talk about what won't be impacted by this technology. Then we're going to jump straight into the questions. So the first question I have is, how will CT scanning affect sealed product values? Secondly is whether CT scanning is going to touch modern product potentially. Third, I'm going to look at whether we've seen previous examples of hobby-defining changes to collecting and investing. For example, pack weighing. How did the market respond to it? Is there anything we can take from that, extrapolate it into this situation? And four, I'm going to round up everything and anything that I haven't mentioned in those three questions. So the first thing that we need to look at is how this all blew up. This first started by a video from this guy who bought a disused CT scanner and made some modifications to it. You can see a Ninetales holo clearly showing through the CT scanning technology. So you can see the silhouette based on the foiling of the holo card and the part which is not foiled contrasting with each other. Next, we had a breaking news development from OKJLab about this company that offers CT scanning services. Recently, they've tried to open up a new service for specifically using that X-ray CT scanning technology towards collectibles. So I'm not going to go into it in too much detail, but you can see the proposed pricing there. Box scanning prices still not confirmed. It looks like a very implementable technology based on these pictures that you can see. They scanned a whole Twilight Masquerade box and managed to find the Zapdos. Does this apply to textured cards? Yes, look at the Garbodor VMAX. So that is sort of the scene setting. Some random guy posting a video on YouTube 2 weeks ago, and very soon after, a completely unrelated, to my knowledge, third party starting to commercialize this. Okay, so going back to my point of what is not going to be impacted by this CT scanning technology, the only thing that I can confidently say is not going to be affected by this is the primary market of Pokemon cards, is where you're buying directly from the source, i.e. Pokemon Center online. Secondly, you might want to add some reputable local stores that you know of, where the packs come directly from the distributor to the shop, and then you're buying direct from them firsthand, so to speak. However, anything after that that goes secondhand, which is a huge portion of the Pokemon card market, could potentially be impacted by this technology. I'm not trying to fearmonger, just watch on so you know what my points are. So I've talked about what's not going to be impacted. The first question that I said I would try to respond to is, how are sealed products going to be affected by this CT scanning technology, assuming that it does take off and does start to commercialize? Now, in order to answer that question, we have to ask ourselves, what gives a sealed product value? And the answer is really different depending on whether you are looking at a vintage booster box or a modern booster box. The primary use case that people are thinking about when they talk about CT scanning technology is that it's going to be used on vintage booster boxes because those have the highest values. So economically speaking, I've just shown you the pack scanning price is $65 and the booster box price is not set yet. Let's assume it's $200, $300. Automatically speaking, any boxes that are less than at least $300 or $400 are not going to be worth scanning. However, vintage booster boxes can go up to 6 figures. Now, with vintage booster boxes, there is often a phenomenon where sometimes the price of the sealed booster box itself is worth more than the price of the best hit in the box, even in a PSA 10. So let's assume that a Gold Star Charizard PSA 10 is worth around 20k, 25k, but a sealed Dragon Frontiers booster box might be worth 30k, 35k. Some people have said that vintage booster boxes won't get scanned because the value that attributes to the box is from the fact that it's a sealed product. That statement assumes that all of the value of the sealed product comes from the fact that it's sealed, and that is not true, right? There is always part of the value of the box that's contributed to by the cards inside. Now think about it, an unscanned Dragon Frontiers box, the value of the box, part of it comes on the fact that you have a 1 in 2 chance of pulling a gold star. So the probability of pulling the gold star is factored into the price of an unscanned box. And that's really where you can get people gaming the system by CT scanning their booster boxes. So to illustrate the example further, let's use some numbers. Let's assume an unscanned Dragon Frontiers booster box is worth 30k. If I were a scammer, I wanted to scan my box to find out whether it has a Gold Star Charizard in it, and it does have a Gold Star Charizard, I'm instantly going to claim you should be paying 40k for that. Someone might be paying for that, for example, a Whatnot streamer, if they can guarantee to their audience during a box break that they have a 1 in 36 chance of putting a Gold Star Charizard, the single pack prices within that box are going to be more valuable because people know that there is a Gold Star Charizard in there. If you scan the box and the best hit in it is a Tyranitar EX, which is worth nowhere near what the Charizard PSA 10 is worth, that Dragon Frontiers box technically should be worth like 25k because of the principle I've just explained, which is that the booster box value, even of vintage products, is still partly contributed to by the cards inside. Now, where someone can really game this is if they scan that booster box, find out that it's only got a Tyranitar EX as the best hit. They can still sell it fraudulently by pretending it's been unscanned for 30k, but they know that there's nothing good in it, and that's where the fraud comes. The scary part about this is that really, with pack weighing, for example, you can kind of verify whether someone is capping or not. Obviously, pack weights differ from box to box, but if someone tells you a pack is a certain weight, you can verify that yourself. If someone has CT scanned the box, how do I verify that they are not lying? So overall, I do think that CT scanning can affect sealed booster box values. The next thing that I really want to talk about is whether CT scanning technology is going to hit modern booster boxes. That's because in the case of modern, the booster box sealed value is contributed to by the pulls you can get inside more than the fact that the product is sealed itself. But really where I'm going with this is, let's take a look at the numbers on CT scanning. Japan by far has the greatest, but if you look down here, the biggest market for Pokemon cards alongside Japan is the United States. So the two countries which are the biggest markets for Pokemon cards have the highest numbers of CT scanners, and roughly speaking, the number of CT scanners in the world stands at 5 figures. You don't need to get your hands on an expensive CT scanner in order to benefit from the service. Furthermore, there are private companies who do already have CT scanners and are simply potentially looking for a way to diversify their income. Finally, even with the number of CT scanners that I've talked about, this is surely going to be constantly increasing. So when we are assessing the potential of this technology, you can't just assess it against the one thing that you found out today, which is one company and one nerdy guy. You have to assess the potential of the technology. This is not a new technology, and there are already tens of thousands of existing CT scanners in the world. Not everyone will be using them to scan Pokemon cards, of course. It is not ridiculous to suggest that there are going to be multiple competitors looking to enter into this if they see it as profitable. Economies of scale and larger scale of competitors might slowly bring the price of the service down to the point where it's even possibly worth scanning your modern booster boxes. And Evolving Skies is right on the precipice of potentially being worth scanning already. That's where there really is potential for modern to be touched by this technology. But keep watching, because there are some counterpoints as to why this might not even be an issue. Next, I want to talk about whether we have previous examples of things that have entered the hobby and how they have affected it. Reseals, pack weighing, altering, none of those things are good for the hobby, and gradually each of those things slowly reduces consumer confidence in the hobby in dealing with other people on the secondary market. I personally have been affected by each of these things. Pack weighing, for example, people say that you have to assume that a pack is light. That means that I'm willing to buy from fewer people in terms of packs. Similarly for card altering and reseals, that slowly narrows down my options of where I buy my booster boxes from or cards from, because I just can't trust anyone nowadays. But in terms of how weighing has affected the hobby, light packs are worth less than heavy packs, but that's not the only thing that's changed, right? And the difference between pack weighing and CT scanning is when you're weighing a pack. It's a heavy pack, it guarantees to contain a hollow, but you don't know which exact hollow. So the value is still higher than a light pack, but it's still like an average of the potential hollows you can pull in a set. With CT scans, you will get the exact hollow that's in a pack. That's pretty scary. Blister packs are slowly worth more than loose packs. Even sleeved boosters of modern product, I would say, are worth more because they are harder to weigh. Triple blisters, for this exact reason of both vintage and modern products, are also sort of like worth more than 3 loose packs, because as long as the blister hasn't been tampered with, you know that the pull rates of those 3 packs have not been touched at all. So that's how these kind of changes can affect the hobby. Now let's look at resealing. In terms of Japanese booster boxes, which are the most susceptible from the modern sites to resealing, I'm much less willing to buy boxes off of eBay now. I have to buy them off of people I trust. Even on Amazon Japan, you can't even trust all of the sellers. You have to do your due diligence. So we are just in a much more cautious world, and I think that CT scanning only adds to that. Finally, with card altering, I haven't really seen this impact the market yet. So we have people that are polishing their cards and disguising it as restoring cards or, cleaning cards. I'm not here to argue that point. If in 5 years' time, the polish that was applied on the card results in some chemical disfigurement of the card, it's at that point that the problem will surface. That takes me back to a big point that I want to make about all of this, which is even though resealing, pack weighing, card altering are all things that should be significantly reducing consumer trust, confidence, and therefore prices in the market, it doesn't seem like that they're affecting prices that much. And the reason why it's not affecting prices that much, I think, is because of human nature. And what I mean by that is I think that people are willing to ignore these things up until the point that it affects them. So if someone has not been personally affected by resealing, I think they're still happy to buy boxes on eBay and Mercari, right? Until they know that they've been scammed, they're just ignoring the problem and not really thinking about whether it is an issue or not. So my point here is that even with CT scanning, like if there's no way of detecting it, I think people are going to ignore the problem, because at the end of the day, if you've had a box that's been CT scanned, how do you even know you've been scammed when you're opening a vintage booster box? If you still get your main EX pulls, you have no way of knowing that you've actually been scammed. So I think that a lot of people are going to ignore this, and because of human nature, not because it's the right thing to do, prices might not actually be impacted that much until the problem becomes too big. For live streaming sellers, if I have 2 Dragon Frontiers boxes, I can CT scan one, keep the one that's got the better hits, and still box break the one that's got the worst hits for market price, even though I know it should be worth less, and people will have no way of knowing. So the final point that I want to make as to why this might not take off is potentially legal action. Now, I don't know what type of legal action could be taken, but just remember, this scanning technology doesn't only need to be used against Pokemon cards, it can be used against Lorcana, One Piece, and most TCGs. The only one that the company said that they couldn't scan was Magic the Gathering cards. In terms of all 4 of those companies, people always say that they don't care about the secondary market, they only care about the primary market. However, if the secondary market is impacted to a point where it's overall decreasing the level of interest in the hobby and therefore hurting the sales of the primary market, those companies might suddenly stand up and take action. It's possible that one of these companies might seek to take legal action very quickly. Now, I don't know what the claim would be, but sometimes you don't always need to have a valid claim to delay things from going onto the market or threatening a company to not do something. To conclude, this is definitely a revolutionary thing in the hobby. I think it could have a very negative impact on the hobby, especially a negative impact on me because I care about the source of my products. I'm definitely going to be buying less of certain things if this really does take off. I want to know what you think about both the points that I've made as well as what you think this technology is going to do to the hobby. I don't think it's going to kill the hobby, but I think it's going to cause significant changes. We all have to get ready for it. Thanks very much for watching, and happy collecting.